Yeah, the Wednesday edition of Mr. Irrelevant, presented by County Distillery. I am Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Joshy DiMaggio with me here in Milwaukee. Producer Tiny Hands, Hunter Vaughn, is back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison here with you on this Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. A special happy birthday to Ryan Wollersheim, who's filled in on this show a few times. Shout out to Woley. So on birthdays in our company, we send out a survey, and they ask you different questions. I just want to read you some of the things that Ryan Wollersheim wrote, because I got a kick out of it. And Joshy, I'm not sure you got this email. Hunter, I think you did.
Oh, I did.
So one of the questions is, something not many people may know about you. Ryan's response was, I was born on August 7th, 1999, as his things some people might not know about him. And then the final question is favorite birthday memory. And his answer was when I turned 25 years old, which was today. So Ryan getting very creative on his birthday survey. So that made me happy. Just figured I'd let you all know. So happy birthday to primetime Wollersheim producer Jim, Matt, and Molly, weekdays 4 to 6 on ESPN Madison.
He's content factory, that guy.
Something not many people know about you. I was born August 7th, 1999. Content factory indeed. All right, lots to get into in regards to the Green Bay Packers. First preseason game is 4 days away as they head to Cleveland to take on the Browns. No joint practice this week for the Packers. They will have joint practices for the remaining 2 games against the Broncos and the Ravens. The preseason finale is the only home preseason game for the Packers at Lambeau Field. So they will go to Denver next week and have a practice with them, I believe, a week from tomorrow. And then the following week, their final practice open to the public will be against the Baltimore Ravens in a joint practice ahead of their preseason finale at Lambeau Field in a couple of weeks. So, those joint practices are great for evaluation and great for, understanding competition and seeing people that aren't your teammates in those 11-on-11s and some of those other drills. So those joint practices are taking over the NFL. We've already seen multiple fights this week. There was one yesterday with Malik Neighbors. And one Kirby Joseph, I think it was, the defensive back for the Lions. The Lions and Giants have a joint practice. So I'd love seeing a little scrum, little fight, little attitude here in August as we gear up for the NFL regular season. But yeah, these joint practices are great. So I'm looking forward to getting a couple of these for the Packers here coming up in the next few weeks. But now we just ease our way into the preseason, which begins Saturday for the Packers at the Cleveland Browns. The fun part is, something we weren't certain was going to happen, is that the Packers will play their starters in preseason game number 1. Jordan Love will play, according to the head coach, Matt LaFleur, on Saturday against the Browns. And I imagine as we get deeper and deeper into the preseason, we'll see less and less of Love. I don't anticipate seeing a ton of him on Saturday. It'll probably be 2 drives, maybe 3, maybe it's a full quarter. And maybe it depends on how well he's doing or how not well he's doing, depending on how the game shakes out against one of the league's best defenses in the Cleveland Browns. I think it's a good test. I think it's a good warm-up period. I don't think it'll tell us a whole lot about what Jordan Love's season will look like. Now, I will say this. I think I was the founding member of the Jordan Love MVP Club. Hunter, you can probably attest to this better than most, as you have been with me every episode of Mr. Irrelevant. I believe the first ever episode of Mr. Irrelevant, I said Jordan Love was the front runner for the MVP because we debuted the day after the season opener last year when the Packers beat up on the Chicago Bears. So I think I am actually the founding member of the Jordan Love MVP Club. Is that fair, Hunter?
It absolutely is, even though there's been times where you've tried to deny that. And I feel as though that hot take right out of the gates really set up this show for some of the moments that have happened on social media that we'll get to a little later on. So I think you need to take full blame for that as well. You really set this show up for some fun.
I think you're right. I think I create a culture on Mr. Irrelevant where everybody should be comfortable sounding stupid. Because I do it quite often.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Real frankly, I do it quite often. So, although what we're going to get to a little bit later, it was not me who said something stupid earlier in the week. It was not Hunter either who said something stupid earlier in the week. It was Joshy. So we'll get to that a bit later. as we will read some of the responses to something, and we will hear exactly what it was that Joshy said that was stupid. But I create a culture on this program where I want everybody to feel comfortable saying stupid things. And I think I do a damn good job of that, to be real honest with you. Look, none of us are ever going to be right all the time. But I will take my victory laps when I can. And my victory lap here is we are about to enter a season where Jordan Love will likely spend a lot of it as an MVP frontrunner. I fully believe with the offense opening up the way it has, and you know what we saw in the second half of the season, right? Full playbook, receivers aren't running wrong routes. They clearly understand the offense. Jordan Love feeling more comfortable being the leader and the starting quarterback of this team. I believe we are entering a season where Jordan Love will be a front runner for the MVP for a lot of the upcoming season. And as Packers fans, maybe that's something we're just used to. Aaron Rodgers won 4, Brett Favre won 3, Jordan Love might win a couple. We're used to quarterback play at an MVP level. But after a year where we went into the season completely uncertain of what this guy was capable of, and now going into this season with him being the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, I'm comfortable saying I think he'll be an MVP frontrunner. And Saturday, while it does not play into the MVP campaign that I will be running this season for Jordan Love, and he will be running for himself, frankly, it will be exciting to see Jordan Love back on the football field in pads playing a team that is not the Green Bay Packers. That's what Saturday's all about. So seeing Jordan Love on Saturday is very, very, very exciting. The other news of the week is the first unofficial depth chart was released by the Green Bay Packers. And Rob Domofsky tweeted this perfectly. I don't get it. Why do we call it the unofficial depth chart if the team is releasing it? But an unofficial depth chart nonetheless. Couple of notes from the depth chart. Number 1, A.J. Dillon is listed as running back 2, Marshawn Lloyd as running back 3. Now, we haven't seen a ton of Lloyd as he's still recovering from, I believe it was a foot injury that he's just getting back on the practice field, had a couple of reps of family night, getting some reps this week. We hope to see him Saturday against the Browns. But Lloyd, the mid-round draft pick, I believe he was a late third-round draft pick for the Packers this past season out of USC, is listed as running back 3. A.J. Dillon, who's back on that really cheap deal, is listed as running back 2. That was the first thing that caught my eye. The other thing that caught my eye, it's nothing crazy. It's something we talked a lot about on Monday, and we'll talk about more in a bit. Dontayvion Wicks is listed as wide receiver 4, Bo Melton wide receiver 5. And then 1, 2, 3 in order is Dobbs, Watson, and Reed. Dobbs and Watson pretty interchangeable. Reed listed as the starting slot receiver, kind of what you expected there. Wicks is wide receiver 4, Bo Melton as wide receiver 5. 1 through 5, I think that's exactly what you anticipated, but still something to keep an eye on. One more thing offensively. Jordan Morgan, who it was just released a couple hours ago, is dealing with an injury, will not play in Saturday's preseason opener, but is listed in the first unofficial depth chart as the starting right guard over Sean Ryan. So Jordan Morgan, who was drafted as a tackle, who in his introductory press conference to the media said he looks forward to defending Jordan Love's blind side, protecting Jordan Love's blind side, is not a tackle in the depth chart. He's not a backup tackle in the depth chart. He is a starting guard, not on Jordan Love's blind side. Listed as the starting right guard. So he is winning that competition against Sean Ryan here early into camp and heading into the first preseason game. But Saturday it will be Sean Ryan who we see starting at right guard. So something to keep an eye on there. But the philosophy with Green Bay is as simple as this, especially when it comes to their offensive linemen. They want the best 5 out there. Jordan Morgan is a part of the best 5. Perfect scenario. I don't care if it's tackle, guard, or center. If he's part of the best 5, I want him on the field. That's how the Packers view it. That's how I view it. Jordan Morgan is one of the best 5 as it stands right now. On August 5th, I think this was actually released, or August 6th. That's good news as you're getting instant return on your first-round draft pick, Hunter.
You know, maybe when he was saying that he was looking forward to protecting his blind side, he actually knew that he was going to be playing right guard, and they're expecting a lot of rollouts to the left from Jordan Love. Yeah. So then it'll still be his blind side. So he wasn't wrong, maybe.
If we ever have Jordan Morgan on the program, that will be a question I ask. What did you mean by this, Jordan? Starting right guard? What did you mean by that? Yeah, that's might be true. Might be a good point by you. So that was the offensive notes, I would say, that really caught my eye. We'll save the special teams note, which is Anders Carlson, but the Packers also signed a kicker today, so we'll get into that in a minute. Defensive notes, TJ Slayton listed as a defensive tackle starter next to Kenny Clark over Devontae Wyatt, over Carl Brooks. I don't think we expected Carl Brooks in there, but Devontae Wyatt listed as a second-team defensive tackle right now. Not really what you want. Speaking of first-round picks, now entering his, what will this be now, his third or fourth season with the Packers. Third. Yeah, you're kind of hoping for a pop here for Devontae Wyatt. TJ Slayton still listed over him. Eric Wilson is listed as the starting linebacker aside of Isaiah McDuffie and Quay Walker. Edrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper, the two first-round picks, both second-team guys. I don't think that will stay as is when we enter week one not in Philadelphia, but against Philadelphia and Brazil. I would guess Edrin Cooper will make the jump to a starting linebacker. And Javon Bullard listed as the starting safety aside Xavier McKinney. You anticipated that out of the second-round pick, but given what they did with Eric Wilson, maybe you anticipated Anthony Johnson Jr. would be the second starting safety on that depth chart. And then the final note, which we'll get into now, is the kicking battle continues in Green Bay. Very windy conditions yesterday in Green Bay. Anders Carlson, not a very good day for him. Greg Joseph, not a very good day for him. So in turn, what the Packers do is they go ahead and make a signing today. The Packers have signed former Oklahoma State kicker Alex Hale, an undrafted rookie. He came in for a tryout yesterday. He is signed today and is at practice right now in Green Bay. Was 27 of 34 in his senior season for the Cowboys, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, that is, with a long of 53 yards. He was 3 for 4 in his senior season with kicks of over 50 yards. That from Cody Krupp, of Fox 11 up in Green Bay with the stats and with some of the information on Alex Hale. So 3 kickers now, and once again in Green Bay. What this tells me is the Packers have no idea what the hell they're going to do at kicker. You have Anders Carlson, the incumbent, who had a pretty rough rookie season. You bring in a veteran in Greg Joseph. You have those two guys battling out for a couple of days, and now you bring in a third kicker in Alex Hale. This tells me the Packers have no idea who the heck their kicker is going to be in 2024, despite it listed on the unofficial depth chart as Anders Carlson as their starter. 3 kickers means you have none. Similar to the old adage when it comes to quarterbacks. You got 2 quarterbacks, you got 0. When you have 3 kickers, you really have none, is how I view it. To be real honest with you, I wish no ill will on anybody, obviously. This is their career they're fighting for. I get it, right? Like, I'm rooting for success for everybody. But I kind of just wish it's none of the 3 at this. Or maybe it's Alex Hale. I know nothing about the guy. But I'm kind of just hoping, we find somebody consistent. You find somebody who can hit a 50-yarder or a 40-yarder when you need it and make the easy chip shots that are extra points these days. Like, just make it easy. And this has been nothing but difficult. I referenced an article on Monday's show on ESPN.com, which went through all 32 teams and listed the biggest positional battle they have. It's bad news when the kicker is your biggest positional battle, according to Rob Demovsky on ESPN.com. Anders Carlson hasn't been good. Greg Joseph hasn't been good. Alex Hale, maybe he will be good. He's got a great first name. That's about all I know about him now. I hate this. I hate that we continue to have to talk about a kicking battle in Green Bay. And it's crucial, right? Like, we saw what a bad kicker does to you down the stretch in the regular season. Luckily, it didn't cost the Packers any games down the stretch in the regular season. But you saw what it did to him against San Francisco in the divisional round. You need somebody consistent, and the Packers clearly don't have that. They're pretty much at the point where they're just throwing crap at the wall and hoping something sticks, right? It seems like they did that with Greg Joseph. They're doing that now with Alex Hale. And it just seems like they're afraid to move on from this draft pick out of Auburn from a year ago in Anders Carlson. Go ahead, Hunter.
It's almost as though what I said a few weeks back about kicker battles is coming true. And it's almost better to just go with the guy until you don't think they're the guy and then bring somebody else in. It's almost like I was maybe right, and you owe me an apology.
I don't owe
being
you an
mean.
apology.
You were being very mean about my take that I don't like kicker battles and that they don't go well.
They don't.
And it's not going well.
I'm not disagreeing
and you
with
told
that
me
part
I was
of
an
it.
idiot.
But I didn't call you an idiot. I'm not
You
disagreeing
did.
with that part. I probably did. You're probably right. I'm sorry for calling you an idiot. But it's not that you're wrong on kicking battles typically don't go well. You're right on that. But in this case, where it is August 7th, and you still have, now it's 30 days until you kick off the season on that Friday night in Brazil against Philadelphia, you've got 4 weeks to figure out, okay, who are we riding into battle with? I see no harm in carrying 3 kickers right now. I'm just confused how you're going to divvy up the kicking responsibilities in 3 preseason games. Are they each going to get a game? Are they going to rotate, right? So then, but that seems messy because it could go Anders Carlson extra point, Greg Joseph 46-yard attempt, and then Alex Hale 33-yard attempt. You're not getting a fair sample size. That's the nice part about training camp conditions, but those aren't real game conditions either. So I don't know how you decipher who the best kicker is, right? Like you can keep a running tally of how they're doing throughout training camp, but it is messy. You were right on that. It's really messy, especially now that you bring in a third party. So that is actually one thing, as sad as that is, right? Because a year ago we were talking about, oh man, I got to see everything I can out of Jordan Love. I got to know whether or not he's the guy in the preseason. Maybe the top storyline for me, probably not the top, but a top 3 storyline for me entering preseason game number 1 on Saturday is how are they going to divvy up the kicking battle? How are they going to evaluate this? That's sad. I mean, it's a good problem to have that's my number 1 concern or number 2 or number 3 concern entering the first preseason game. But boy, oh boy, does life come at you fast. The NFL comes at you fast. When last year we were all worried about the starting quarterback. Now he's the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and we're worried about a kicking battle. Just funny how that works. That's fair, right? You'd agree with that?
Yeah. Like this is a really good problem to have, that like this is where the roster's at, that you're concerned about the kicking battle. The best thing I think they could do, and I don't know if they're doing this in the practices, this might be a good Jason Wilde question, but like I've seen the Cowboys in the past when they've done the kicker battles or things like that, or they weren't completely sure on a guy, is every practice it was, okay, here's the kicker, we have a 50-yard field goal, he makes it, practice is done. He doesn't make it, we're going to keep going. And like you put the team pressure on him to try and simulate something and see how he handles it and see how they do it. Like that's the best you can do in practices. And then as far as the games go, I wouldn't be surprised if at Cleveland they go, you know what, we've got a 3rd and 4. Let's just run it up the middle. Maybe we don't get it. And that way, then we can at least get a look at a kicker.
Sure.
They may be very conservative through the preseason because of this now.
And they might. And I think your point on simulating, you and I are obviously not special teams coaches in the NFL. I think you would do a better job than me for what it's worth. But I trust Rich Bisaccia to, put him through whatever it takes. I trust his evaluation of special teams players. Now, his evaluation on Anders Carlson has not been the best, but I trust his evaluation overall. So we will see when it comes to that. Real quick, Joshy just texted me. Christian Watson, little bit of a hiccup, I would say, in practice just moments ago, walking off the field under his own power. Packers ended the practice abruptly after the rep, but it appears Watson is okay, according to Ryan Wood from the Green Bay Press-Gazette. So there you go. If you were worried about Christian Watson, the wide receiver, and his injury problems. Today, not a great sign, Joshy, but seems like he's okay from what I gather from your text message.
It seems like it. Domofsky gave more context. On the last play of practice, rookie Evan Williams picked off Love in the end zone on a pass intended for Christian Watson, who ended up face down and in pain. He was down for more than 2 minutes, receiving attention from medical and training staff before finally getting to his feet.
Yeah, and then Matt Schneidman from The Athletic following up. Watson was rubbing his left hip. Seems to be something on his left leg that's banged up. He seems to be okay as practice ends. That's from Matt Schneidman of The Athletic. So, Joshy, I'm being serious, and Hunter, I'll ask you the same question. Joshy, I'll start with you. After reading this, for a guy that's been injury prone the first 2 years of his career, but we know has big bang potential as the Packers' vertical threat, would you sit him Saturday against the Browns knowing what you know now?
I think he should have probably been in that case the whole time.
Oh, okay.
If he's gonna learn, he needs to do it on the field. If there's any progression to go, he provides too much upside.
Yeah.
To risk getting hurt by somebody trying to make a team on the Browns who necessarily doesn't have a starter or a roster spot now, trying to make an impression.
Yeah.
If he's going to be put at risk that often, just keep him as safe as possible.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Hunter, what do you think?
I think the only way you would play him in the preseason is if you know the other team's also putting him in a spot where he's going up against starters, because then, like Josh said, you don't have to worry about somebody like really trying to make a play. I don't remember the preseason schedule because I don't care about them
at Browns,
all.
at Broncos, home against the Ravens.
So that Broncos game, he's going up against Patrick Surtain.
Right.
Dude's not going to go and lay out for a pass or do anything ridiculous in that game because he obviously has his spot. Mm-hmm. And then that's the guy you put him up against and you see what he does for a couple of plays, but then you're sitting him right away because he knows what this offense needs. He's getting reps in practice with Jordan Love. So the things you need for him, you can get in other ways. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if he sits for a few days here too. It's just one of those where it's even if he's fine, they're just we're not risking it. Yeah. Don't mess with it. Just get him off the field for a couple days.
I agree. I'm with you on that. So we will see. It looks like Watson is okay, but never a fun one to read as he deals with another injury. But hopefully that is that. Okay. But yeah, just to confirm, Saturday at the Browns, next Sunday at the Broncos, and the following Saturday, the 24th. The only home preseason game for the Packers against the Baltimore Ravens. I assume that's pretty much all the info we'll get on Watson. One quick thought on the kicking battle before we take a break. Daniel on the ESPN, that is the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube stream, says, do you think the Packers season will ultimately fall short again because of the kicking situation? If they get it right, I think they can win the Super Bowl if everything else goes right. Thoughts? I mean, yeah, if everything goes right, you hope so, right? If Love is operating at an MVP level, if the offense looks as ridiculous as they did towards the second half of the season last year, if the Jeff Hafley defense lives up to 80% of the hype we're hearing, this team's already going to be in a really good position to succeed. Could the kicking battle be the Achilles heel? Of course it could. That's why it makes me so nervous. That's why I've spent so much time talking about it on this show. I think it is such a bigger deal than maybe some of us like to realize, right? Because kickers are they have such a minimal impact typically on games, especially when you have a really good team. But the way we saw Anders Carlson fall flat on his face toward the back half of last season, and really in that divisional round game against San Francisco, you need somebody you can count on in those moments. And I don't think Anders Carlson has earned that trust. So could that be the Achilles heel? Of course it could be. But I hope they find a way to figure it out. And maybe it's the guy they bring in with a great first name, Alex Hale, the undrafted rookie out of Oklahoma State. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back in 60 seconds, we'll take a look at something Josh said on Monday's show that caused quite a stir. We will also listen to Brian Gutekunst, who was on the Adam Schefter Podcast on the ESPN Podcast Network. Yesterday's episode of the Adam Schefter Podcast talked about championship windows, had an interesting response. So do want to talk about, can the Packers win the Super Bowl this year? Is their championship window open? We will talk about all that in just a bit. But first, got to tell you about my friends at Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. You heading up to Door County? I know where you should go. Carlsville is where you should go. Stop in by Door County Distillery. Take the tour. Do some of the tastings. Check out some of the exclusive product they have in their shop at the distillery in Carlsville. Or if you're not going up to Door County, bring Door County to you. It's affordable. It's made local. It's award-winning. It's done better than everybody else, and you got to support local business, whether it's that blue bottle of vodka, the green bottle of gin, the cherry brandy made with local Door County cherries. Mix it up in your cherry brandy old-fashioned. Or if you're a whiskey person like myself, they've got a 27-time gold medal award-winning single malt whiskey. They've got a delicious bourbon, almost bourbon season. By the way, an exclusive in their store, which you're about to see, cherry bourbon. Ooh, that is good. Also got the rye whiskey if that's your cup of tea, and all the in-betweens. DoorCountyDistillery.com to find the retailer nearest you, as well as a huge list of unique cocktail recipes. That's DoorCountyDistillery.com. We step aside for 60 seconds. When we come back, it's Mean Tweets Joshy DiMaggio version. That's next. It's Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf.
Back in Carlsville at the legendary Door County Distillery with my buddy Rob from Door County Distillery, and we have a Door County Distillery exclusive in front of us right now, Rob. Cherries, bourbon, two of my favorite things. Put them together. You got the Door County Distillery cherry bourbon. It's beautiful. We're just doing shots?
Yeah, we're just
Let's
going to
celebrate.
straight up. I mean, it is good for mixed drinks. You can put it in old fashions, Manhattans, but sometimes you just want to straight up take a little shot of it.
I won't complain about that. Like I said, two of my favorite things. Cherries, bourbon, Door County cherries, bourbon. I can't complain.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, buddy. Thanks
Cheers.
a lot.
Prost.
Ooh, that's tasty. Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That's really smooth.
Get that cherry flavor. Yep. Not a whole lot of burn. Beautiful.
That's terrific. Door County Distillery exclusive, the cherry bourbon.
Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at doorcountydistillery.com. That's doorcountydistillery.com. Yeah, doorcountydistillery.com, the website for our friends at Door County Distillery. All right, we've got to go in the time machine real quick. We need to take you back to Monday's edition of Mr. Irrelevant. Many of you were with us live. Many of you listened to this live. I did. I thought it was crazy at the moment. I didn't think it was as crazy as maybe it's being treated on the internet. But on Monday's edition, we talked about Dontayvion Wicks only receiving 6 first-team snaps of the 26 during Saturday's family night at Lambeau Field. Joshy is a big Dontayvion Wicks guy. He said this on Monday's edition of Mr. Irrelevant about Dontayvion Wicks. Hey, is there more to this story?
I think we can't totally dismiss this story as it's happening. I would dismiss the idea almost out of hand of they're trying to hide him. But the Packers are so weird.
They're so weird
about the way they protect themselves and protect like the state secrets that it has to at least be a factor. To me, the most likely option is they think they got their 3 guys and that's it. I do have concerns about that because I think a offense run through Romeo Doubs might be a little stunted, have a little issue in terms of explosiveness if he's going to be such a big factor, because he is far and away right now the guy we've heard the most about most recently.
Yeah.
I think also if you're going to view Dontayvion Wicks as like a distant fourth like that, then just trade the guy because somebody out there thinks higher of him. And you could probably get some value out of that.
It's still too early, though.
I think it is early, but at some point, if this is how it's going to be and this carries out through the season where he's seen 15 or less snaps, what are you doing here?
What are you doing here? All right, Josh, it's been 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stand by if you're not going to use him, trade him in 2024?
Yeah, of course. Well, what has happened that would take me off of that take? A couple dorks on the internet barely listening and then reacting to it? Of course not.
So cyberbullying is not going to work on you.
No. You got me way wrong. Cyberbullying, the more you're saying, the more I'm being mentioned is the better for me.
Yeah, you're the type of guy that's just going to stick your 2 feet in.
Yeah. All publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that. Now, I just do want to run. This is not one of the 5 tweets we're going to react to together.
Okay.
This was the best point that was made, or maybe we are going to react to it. I don't even remember which ones I selected. Some of them were funny. Some of them were just good points. Why would the Packers take away their depth, which you and I agreed on Monday's episode is their superpower, by trading Dontayvion Wicks?
Because your depth is Bo Melton, Malik Heath, Samari Toure, Grant DuBose.
Samari Toure's not making the roster. Don't even.
Who knows? There's 3 guys back that there is 2 other guys that had a similar snap share to him.
It's
if he's
true.
that distant of a fourth, you at least view Bo Melton and Dontayvion Wicks at the same level right now, from the information we have.
Yes.
Dontayvion Wicks, amongst NFL circles, is thought of way more highly than that.
Oh, yeah.
So, if you're not going to use him, somebody out there will find value in that, and you can make your team better elsewhere.
So should the Packers trade Marshawn Lloyd, who's listed as their 3rd running back?
No, because you don't know exactly what you have there yet.
Couldn't you make that same case with Wicks? You don't know exactly what you have there yet. You like the upside.
You're giving me indication on what it is, because he had probably the best second half out of most of the players there. Romeo Doubs had a big couple games.
Reed was pretty good.
Dontayvion Wicks came on in a big way. Well, when Reed was on the field, because he missed a couple games there in the late portion. So did Dontayvion Wicks.
That's true. He missed
But
that Vikings
all the stats point towards Dontayvion Wicks not only being a good football player, potentially being one of the better young wide receivers in the NFL.
game. Yeah. Okay. All right. No backpedal from Joshy DiMaggio.
No, it's very simple. If you think him and Bo Melton are interchangeable, you got two guys that are fours. What do you need two fours for?
That's true. I won't argue with that. I think it would be very, very stupid to trade him, though, because I think you and I agree he's probably the one I'm most excited about.
The only reason you don't trade him is because you lack a lot of confidence about the guy we talked about earlier who went down with a hip issue.
He flashed 2 thumbs up to all the reporters, by the way, so he says he's good. Does Christian
I'm glad
Watson.
he gave both. 1 thumbs up, I'd have been nervous.
Yeah, really? Well, I mean, I actually probably would have been. If he just went like this rather than both, this really indicates he's good. You're right. Good point. All right, let's go to the cyber bullies. What do the cyber bullies have to say? Mean tweet number 1. GTFOH. Paul Bunyan, go chop a tree. This take is terrible.
I missed that one. That's a good one. I like that tweet. I'm gonna go find that one so I can like it.
You today once again are wearing a flannel with a camo hat.
Yeah.
And he says, "Get the F out of here, Paul Bunyan."
Hey, you give props. Good insult. I like it. That's the thing people don't like. I'm also a glutton for punishment. So you diss me good. You get me to giggle about something. Hey, props to you.
Plus, they're assuming that you can chop a tree down. Like, that's a compliment.
Good point. Means you're a strong guy,
I was gonna
Josh.
say, I've taken down only a couple, and they were closer to saplings than anything else. I don't know if I've taken down a full tree, but I appreciate that.
That from Jeremy. Let's go to mean tweet 2. ESPN Milwaukee dropping another steaming dookie of a take after the Jordan Love is selfish for holding out for less than a week. That was Kyle Wallace from Kyle Preston Nortman. Wicks will get used. Practice means basically nothing. Stop being ridiculous. So he didn't even go for you. He went for our entire team.
First of all, I want to thank that person for listening to all our content and paying attention to us so closely he can recount from memory all the things that we have said on these here programs. Your fanhood to ESPN Milwaukee is greatly appreciated, and I think I speak for all of us.
Yeah.
What else is the other point there? He will get used.
Practice means basically nothing, I think was more the point.
Practice means everything. That's all they're doing.
Really?
That's all they're doing. We haven't
True.
seen games yet.
Good
I'm
point.
taking the information at hand. If you don't think you mentioned earlier the unofficial depth chart.
Yeah, I don't get why it's unofficial, but anyway, go on.
Right, and LaFleur, I believe, went on to say that was a TJ Waller's thing. He works in the press, the PR department. Interestingly enough, when they did walkthroughs yesterday, guess what exact lineup was on the field?
I would guess the one in the unofficial depth chart, Josh.
Oh boy! So if you think 6 snaps is just, whatever. It's just practice. We don't know what happened. They were clearly running their 3 main guys.
I'm really intrigued to see what week 1 looks like.
I am too. And I was interested because I heard Jason Wilde say that there was like a 4 and out. So there wasn't a lot of plays that got to happen. Guess what? If the Packers have a bad game on offense, guess who's not going to see the field if that's how it's going to go?
That would be Dontayvion Wicks.
Right. Like,
unless they're going for an answer with him.
We did this thing about Aaron Jones for the longest time. Why is he on the field? How does he get
That's a really good point.
And the answer was they don't trust him enough to be able to handle all those snaps.
Yeah.
They didn't want him on the field more because if they did, they would just put him out there. So apply that to Dontayvion Wicks, and we've only seen Family Net. That's all we got right now.
Mm-hmm.
But for the information I have at this moment, it appears that the case is going to be those 3 leading the way, and Dontayvion Wicks being a guy that kind of mixes in. They give a blow to one of the other 3 receivers they really want on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Mean tweet 3 for Joshy. From Ryan. Alex is better than this clickbait bull. It's family night. He's low-key their most consistent receiver. If the player isn't making waves and is fine with his role, why create false narratives? So first, 2 things to react to there. Number 1, hey, Joshy, stop bringing me down. Okay? You're giving me a bad rap now, right? I said earlier in the show, I create an environment where I allow people to voice their stupid opinions. I don't hate you for it. Just stop bringing me down with you. You understand?
I just want you to know I'm never going to stop doing the clickbait stuff. Especially when the clickbait stuff is just my opinion.
Is this a false narrative then?
The idea, well, also, what is the
He's low key their most consistent receiver.
based on what? You're just making assumptions there. You try to call me out for being an idiot, and you're just making stuff up. At least I have family night snaps to rely on. You're just saying stuff, Ryan. Please.
Also, if he's low key their most consistent, then guess what? You're not the most consistent because consistency isn't something that you keep on the down low.
Yeah.
So, nah.
Thank you, Hunter.
Who is Romeo Dobbs is their most consistent
Yeah.
receiver.
Without a question.
Okay. What is this now? Is this mean tweet 4 or 5?
This is number 4.
This is number 4 for my friend Mike. I like Mike.
Oh.
I know Mike. Mike says, yes, Green Bay will intentionally weaken its wide receiver room and torpedo its wide receiver one by committee ability because someone got just 6 reps on family night. Now, this might be the best point, and I did bring this up before, Joshy, but I will give you the floor nonetheless to Mike.
I mean, that's fair. That's just a different opinion. The premise I'm working at here is that the 6 snaps is meaningful. The fact that Bo Melton had just 1 less just means to me they view those 2 players as similar type of players. I think if you want to say it's torpedoing the wide receiver one by committee, whatever. The Packers want a wide receiver one. I think everybody needs to.
Everybody wants one.
They just need to disabuse themselves of that notion that they would rather have 4 guys, 5 guys that are all not really sure what they are. They're going to split touches evenly. Guess what? When it comes time to get paid, Jaden Reed isn't going to be like, well, Dontayvion Wicks could probably stay if I cut $2 million out of my deal every year. Nah. They're all there for themselves. They're all there to get paid, and they're all going to do what Jordan Love did. Selfishly, I don't actually believe it was selfish. But their goal is to be the guy. Yeah. So if one guy doesn't think he's getting the opportunity to be the guy, he's not going to be happy in his situation.
Paul Bunyan. No, the wide receiver. Well, here we go. Last one is actually, this was a tweet to me. I said it was a great conversation with Hunter and Josh. Optimistic Packers fan replied, brain dead conversation is more accurate, actually.
That one needs creativity.
Yeah, that one lacked creativity.
Yeah, I hope I
thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, we don't. Our job here isn't to just all get on and agree and be. What is he? Optimistic Packers fan?
Packers fan, yes.
Yeah, that not
which
our
I
job.
definitely am for the most part.
Yeah, I get called a toad on Jen Game and Chewy all the time.
Ribbit.
Because I said I believe in the Packers defense this time around.
Ribbit.
I'm eating the trash, as they would say.
I am too, though, Josh.
I said this to Strouf in our pre-show meeting. I don't know what fans want from me. Like, I honestly don't at this point. Like, okay, great. We'll go ahead and be optimistic about it. But then if we're optimistic about the team and we're too positive about everything, then you're just like, you're not being honest. Yeah. Like, oh, you're on the pay for them in the team or whatever it is. But then we'll try and like talk about what the fans want to talk about. And I'm going to be honest, sometimes you guys give us a whole lot of nothing. So I'm like, I don't know what you want from me.
Yeah, Hunter's taking out the tweeters.
Like, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Hunter's firing back.
I mean, I don't concern myself with what other people want to hear.
Yeah, lions don't concern themselves with the opinions of sheep, right, Joshy?
I do the most interesting topics to me and the people on the shows I'm there with. And if you don't like it, well, you can listen to all the other shows that we have here on the wonderful ESPN Wisconsin airwaves.
There you go.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah.
All that fun stuff.
Well, it's where they are right now, Josh.
Uh-huh.
Talk to them.
I'm mad you guys didn't include, there was a guy.
I must not have saw it.
Who was going by the name Bernie's Mustache.
Oh, yeah, I did see these. I just ignored it.
I really wanted that guy in his parody account from 2012. Remember, like when one thing would happen and it would be like the Falcon in Miller Park, and then there would be a Twitter account about it that would tweet. It's real cool to still be that guy angry tweeting at us. Bernie's Mustache. Get a grip.
Get a grip. All right, that's good stuff. I got two pieces of audio I want to react to. One video, one audio, I should say. Now, this goes back to the Mike tweet that we just referenced, which is essentially the wide receiver one by committee. Kay Adams, who is one of the best NFL reporters in the country, is doing her training camp tour right now for her show Up and Adams. And she was in Green Bay yesterday, talked with Jordan Love. Jordan Love talked about the idea of the wide receiver one by committee. Think his answer here is really, really intriguing in the back and forth with Kay Adams on Up and Adams.
Who's the number one dog?
I'm not going to say anything. You know,
Is
I'm
there
not,
one? How about that?
No. I don't think we do.
You don't
I
think
I think all those guys truly believe they're the number one receiver, and I want to keep it that way.
You can't keep it like that forever. One of them's going to want to get paid. One of them's going to go somewhere else. Is that?
I don't make those decisions.
You're worried about it right now.
We're going to attack this thing and
I knew you weren't going to answer that.
I knew you weren't going to answer that. And he shouldn't. But he thinks all those guys, and I think he's specifically referring to the four, right? Watson, Dobbs, Reed, and Wicks, view themselves as the number one receiver. Love has said on the record multiple times this offseason, he thinks Dontayvion Wicks, Joshy, due for a huge jump in 2024. He wants to keep it that way, wide receiver one by committee. I think it's their superpower. But the one counterpoint I continue to make, I made it on Monday, I'll make it again today. Super Bowl champions have a true number one. In recent history, they all do. Gronkowski, Kelsey, Kupp and Beckham, Mike Evans. All the recent Super Bowl champions have a true number one. The Packers don't. Could they buck that trend? Of course. But I think I'd prefer to have at least a consistent guy. And it seems like Romeo Dobbs is emerging as that guy. But I thought that insight from Love, the quarterback, was interesting. He wants to keep it that way. He's not worried about down the road. He's worried about right now, which he should be. And that's something I enjoyed to hear from Jordan Love. And Kay Adams, great interviewer. Good stuff. Really good stuff yesterday from her with Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur. You can find that on YouTube or wherever. You watch interviews. Really good stuff from her. And Jordan Love I thought he was terrific, man. And that was just part of it. Talking about the contract, talking about the offseason, talking about the expectations. Good stuff there. This is not so fun, or at least in my opinion. The Packers general manager, Brian Gutekunst, and you know if you've listened to the show or watched the show before, I am a huge Goody guy. I am a Goody believer. I trust the moves he makes. Moving on from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love was the ballsiest move a GM could make in the NFL. He made it. He made it successfully. He won a playoff game. The draft classes he's put together the last few years have been money. But this quote from the Adam Schefter Podcast on ESPN from Brian Gutekunst, when asked if the championship window is open. Take a listen.
At the end of the day, those guys got to come together. And as far as your question about the windows, I don't know if we've ever really believed in that around here. The way we build our teams and the way we kind of look at things is that, we're going to try to be competitive each and every year, regardless. And, around here, those expectations don't ever change, right? So, but we do feel good. We do have a little bit more stability contractually with some of our players than we've had in the past, and that's exciting.
Okay, so it is exciting, but we've never believed in a window here, meaning in Green Bay. And look, Brian Gutekunst has been a part of the Packers a long, long time, since the 90s as a scout. He's been a part of the Packers a long time. I'm having a hard time deciphering whether that's coach speak or GM speak, I guess, in that sense, or if that's truly what they believe. They truly believe it is on the players to come together and fight adversity. I like the answer, but I don't like the thought process, because if I'm Goody and if I'm looking at the work that I've laid out the last 2 years, right, going to Jordan Love, making him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, drafting all these stud receivers and tight ends, bringing in Josh Jacobs, having a really good offensive line, bringing in a high energy, creative defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley, and, investing all this money in first-round draft stock into the defense. Van Ness and Gary and Clark and Jair and Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, and the list goes on and on and on. I'm thinking, hey, man, you saw what we did last year. That was no fluke. We had the NFC champions on the ropes. We got better this offseason. It's hard to look around the league and look at teams that won a playoff game a year ago and say definitively they got better this offseason. I think you can do it with Detroit. I think you can do it with Green Bay. I think you can do it with Houston. I think you can do it with Baltimore. I think that's the list. Because San Francisco is about to move on from there. Well, maybe move on from their best target and Brandon Ayuk. I think generally that makes them a worse team. That doesn't make them a bad team by any means, but it makes them worse than they were yesterday, theoretically. Kansas City probably got a little bit better, but I think there's still a lot to tell there. I think the 4 teams that definitively got better that won a playoff game last year are Detroit, Green Bay, Houston, and Baltimore. When you get better after making a divisional round appearance and having the eventual NFC champion, the team that was in the Super Bowl from your conference, on the ropes, I think that tells you the championship window is open. And if things go really well, the NFL's weird, right? Injuries, things you can't predict. The defense is worse than you anticipate. Maybe the kicking battle is even worse than it is on August 7th. Maybe they're not a Super Bowl team. But I think on paper, looking at what they did this offseason, the Packers championship window is open. And I don't know that I love the general manager not saying that. Because to me, as a Packers fan, what I saw last year and the moves they made this offseason, they are a Super Bowl contending team, or they are just on the brink of that. And, come November, when we're halfway through the season, we might be looking at a 7-2 team. Yeah, they're really good. They're going to be hard to beat. Hunter?
I think he firmly believes this, and it's the culture that Green Bay has built. Just off of the way that they've been drafting at the quarterback position, they care more about just being this long-term, like you said, stable organization. And that's what matters more to them, because if it didn't and they actually believed in windows, then they're not drafting Jordan Love. They're going for a receiver that year. They're going to get weapons for Aaron Rodgers, things that they really didn't do. Even going back to Brett Favre's time, he was, there's the story that he was upset they didn't get Randy Moss. Like, they would have made those moves if they actually believed in Super Bowl windows. This organization for decades has shown that they don't believe in that, and it's fine. Like, they're the most consistent organization in the NFL. But if you want Super Bowl rings, and that's what we determine NFL legacies off of, there's a certain point where you've got to believe in Super Bowl windows, and you have to take your chances as an organization and understand that, okay, to go and get this extra ring, we might have some 8-win seasons then for a couple of years while things reload. And that's okay to have happen because it means we got an extra ring or two, which I think this organization could have done given the players that they've had the last 30 years.
Yeah, you're right about that. Look, I guess the GM's mindset on a podcast is not going to dictate how many football games this team wins. I think we can all agree on that.
Are you sure, though? Because
sure.
Strouf, because if his mindset is, okay, we want to be this stable organization, then they weren't making moves to help them win in that moment and win now, because he cares about, okay, we're going to have these couple extra wins later on. Like, it does determine when you're winning as an organization based off the strategy that you're going to take as a front office.
They made moves this offseason, though. So clearly he thinks the championship window's open. I don't think you're going out to redo the safety position. I don't think you're moving on from Aaron Jones to bring in Josh Jacobs. I don't think you're drafting an offensive tackle who is now turned guard, right? Like, I don't think you're making those moves to not win now. I think all of those are win now moves. All three of those that I just listed: Jordan Morgan, and then obviously Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs. Shoot, even Javon Bullard is a win now move and a win next year move.
Yeah, but then they've still also in the past made other moves that weren't necessarily win now moves.
For sure.
So that's
Jordan Love.
Like,
Jordan Love is one of them.
Yeah. So it's like I think he genuinely, like, maybe this year they did it more, but then it's like, why are you lying about that? Like, it's such a normal thing to say, yeah, we feel like this is our window right now. We're going to take opportunities to try and do that. Like, that doesn't change anything. I mean, they're not a big trade organization, so it's not like that's hurting any sort of trade stock, or like a team is going to think they're more desperate to get a guy or anything like that. So, like, just be honest about what it is that you actually think. And I think it's closer to we don't believe in windows at all, and these were just good moves to be able to make that are more long-term moves.
Sure.
And then I don't think it was we think we're going to win now. I think they thought, okay, all of these guys do improve our team, but they're better long-term fits for the organization because they would rather have 10, 11, 12 wins 4 years in a row instead of 14, 15 wins, get a Super Bowl, and then you've got 7 or 8 wins for a couple more.
Yeah, look, a lot of reaction rolling in. Want to get to some of it. On Facebook, at ESPN Madison, at Alex Strouf, at ESPN Milwaukee. Daryl says, the bald guy is speaking facts. That's Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn, the bald guy.
Yeah.
Green Bay doesn't care about winning Super Bowls. They care about consistency and winning the division. No reason we shouldn't have won more Super Bowls. Hopefully things are different under Love, but I doubt it. Winning a Super Bowl is so hard, though. And you're right? Like if you took 2020's draft I think it's the best example. They valued the future over winning now after losing in the NFC Championship game. They drafted Jordan Love. They traded up to do it when they desperately needed a wide receiver or some sort of offensive weapon. They traded up to draft the quarterback that would replace their reigning MVP. He wasn't reigning yet. He won the MVP that season. But a 2-time MVP at that point, now a 4-time MVP. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have for sure. But I view this team, and look, as I said, winning a Super Bowl is really hard. What the Chiefs have done has only been done a number of times. If they do it again this year, they're the only team that's ever done it. 3 in a row. But when I look at teams that were playoff good a year ago, Green Bay certainly evolved into playoff good and then won a playoff game on the road. They got better this offseason. Hunter, I know you would agree with me. Joshy, I know you agree with me. I think Daryl and everybody else commenting across the YouTubes and Facebook and listening on the podcast side, the Packers got better this offseason. Bring in Josh Jacobs. Bring in Xavier McKinney. The draft picks they made. They upgraded. So to look at a team that was 1 win away from the NFC, really, 10 minutes away from the NFC Championship game a year ago, to get better, that means the Super Bowl window is wide open. And to get a full season of the wide open offense that we saw beginning that Pittsburgh game at the beginning of November through the rest of the regular season into the postseason, I think is going to be a huge benefit to this offense. And they are going to look like one of the best offenses in all of the NFL this year. And they're going to have that from week 1 rather than starting in week 9 or 10. So they're Super Bowl good. I would have preferred Goody to just come out and say it, though. Yeah, we understand how good we are or can be. It's on these guys to come together and beat adversity, but we put pieces in position to win a Super Bowl. That's why we do this. Right? That's the answer I would have preferred from the general manager. All right, before we get to what we learned, a ton of people watching live with us on the ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee YouTubes, ESPN Madison Facebook. Appreciate all the interaction. Love reading the comments. Love when you chime in. And also available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand. You can just search Mr. Relevant will be your first result. I'm Alex Strouf. Bald guy is Tiny Hands, also known as Hunter Vaughn. That's the groundhog, Joshy DiMaggio. We do this 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, beginning at 12:30 on these channels. And as I mentioned, available wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love if you join us as we head into the Green Bay Packers season, which officially, kind of unofficially, I guess we should say, like the depth chart, kicks off on Saturday in the preseason game at the Cleveland Browns. Interesting from Goody. Interesting. But appreciate all the interaction today. We always wrap up the show because you learn something new every day. I learned something new today. Hunter learned something new today. It's time now for what we learned. Hunter, go ahead.
I learned that I'm very happy I'm not a Chicago White Sox fan.
Uh-oh.
Like, they finally ended the streak at 21 losses in a row, and I saw the video from the NBC Sports Chicago. Oh, man, they sounded so relieved that it didn't get to 22 losses.
Yeah, they were. They were, and rightfully so.
Like, yeah, absolutely. They had every right to be, but man, I am so happy I'm a fan of the teams that I'm a fan of.
I'm going to text my White Sox fans. I have 2 friends that are White Sox fans. I'm going to text them quick and see if they were rooting for it.
I know from texting with Ari Temkin, friend of the show, appeared on this show. He's a White Sox fan, and he has been very frustrated with it. A while back, he had texted me when they were sitting at, I don't think actually their win total had moved much. They were at 26 wins, I believe it was, and they had 25 blown saves on the year. Like, they are historically bad among all sports. So glad I'm not a White Sox fan. I don't think I could have done it. I don't think I could do it.
Go ahead, Josh.
What exactly are they annoyed about?
Yeah, they're horrible.
Your
right?
team, team and owner don't want to be mad at him. Like,
yeah, but that's what they're annoyed about is Reinsdorf and like how poorly ran that organization is.
They're horrible.
Perhaps I'm vindictive, but if I were to hate an owner the way that White Sox fans seem to do, I want them to break every bad record.
Yeah.
I want them flirting with the Cleveland Spiders as one of the worst teams in history of baseball. I want the losing record. I want everything.
For the record, though, real quick, Spiders, that's a badass team nickname that is completely underutilized. It's only Richmond right now that uses it, I think.
Yeah.
University of Richmond. It's a great team nickname. We need more high schools that are Spiders.
I think the Cleveland Spiders won like 12 games or something absurd.
Okay, well, the White Sox are 28-88. They are 60 games under 500. They are atrocious. And look, at least as a neutral party, I was rooting for them to break the record. I wanted them to lose 24 in a row or 25 in a row or 26 in a row. I wanted to see this thing keep rolling.
See, you shouldn't say that, though, because I was running the board back here for Sunday Karma, and Kyle Wallace talked about how he doesn't want the Bears to do well.
Yeah.
And given that ESPN Chicago is the home of the Bears and as well the White Sox, Craig had to kind of put him in his place a little bit. Be like, hey, we actually want these teams to be doing well here. I know you're from Wisconsin, but like this matters to your teammates if they do well. So I do want the White Sox to be good. It'd just be nice if they were maybe under different ownership and somebody that actually spends money.
I've got a 50-50 response. I texted both my White Sox fan friends, and I will leave them anonymous. One said, I sent the same text to both of them. I said, were you rooting for White Sox to break the loss streak or no? LOL. First one responded, absolutely. They can't even be the best at being the worst, though. Garbage team. That was response one. Response two was, no, LOL. I would have been devastated if they broke the record. Interesting. White Sox fans, they can't even decide which side they're on.
I mean,
either root for them to be trash or not.
I think the losing streak has been good for PR. More people know the White Sox name.
That's very true. Very good point. White Sox have been more talked about in the last 48 hours than they have all season. They're 60 games under 500. That is, dude. I've said some. You see, this. We go full circle here. I'm going to say something stupid.
Okay.
I believe if Joshy was the starting catcher, I was the starting pitcher, Hunter was the starting first baseman. We threw Kyle Wallace at second base. We threw Brad Nortman at shortstop. We threw Ben Brust at third base. We threw Gabe Neitzel in left field. Chewy's our center fielder, and Jim Rutledge is our right fielder.
So we got a shortstop?
Yeah,
Brad Nortman. Said Brad Nortman.
Brad Nortman's playing shortstop. Most athletic guy. Put him there. We're winning 30 games.
No.
Yeah, we are.
Strouf, do you know how hard it is to hit a major league pitcher?
Yes.
Because it's not like you're going up against the White Sox who are really bad. You're going up against good pitchers.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good
like, we don't win a game. We don't score a
You think we're
run.
going 0 and 162?
Yes, absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then I don't think any of our bodies could hold up to that season.
Yeah, that's
Baseball players are incredible.
Well, a few of us are going to need a couple years of training to get into full baseball.
How are your knees doing? You're catching.
Not great.
Okay.
I'm going to need the knee savers that they invented. So I'm kind of just back there. Maybe I'll just, the modern guys are just doing it on the knee. The problem is I don't have the arm anymore. I threw out my arm as a young kid. So there's going to be a lot of stealing. A lot of stealing on our baseball team.
Hey, real quick, before I give you what we learned, Joshy, we were just tagged in a tweet by Lord Lambo.
Oh.
So from Cheesehead TV, Aaron Nagler tweeted, Wicks putting on a show today. Dude just gets open. Lord Lambo said, don't let at Josh DiMaggio or at Alex Strouf see this.
Hey, he's been getting open the whole time.
He's always been getting open.
I'm the biggest Wicks fan here.
We have always said he is the best route runner on the team and one of the best in the league.
All he does is get open.
People don't listen.
I think people mistook me saying trade Wicks as I'm as big of a Wicks believer. I've been saying since last year he's the wide receiver.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah,
I've been there. Yeah.
So I think people mistook it as he's no good, just get rid of him, which is not what I meant. It was more out of frustration. Play the guy or send him to somebody who will.
Correct. Did I ever tell you, Joshy? So I played middle school AAU basketball I was not very good.
Oh, the glory days.
I was not very good, but I was always tall.
I was going to say, you were tall, right?
Yeah, I had a Nike shirt that said, play me or trade me. I wore it to an open gym one time.
Oh, bad move, Strouf.
My coach pulled me aside. He's like, what are you doing? It's like, what? He's what's up with the shirt, man? It's like, I don't know. I just thought it was cool. It's purple and yellow, Lakers colors. It's just a little cocky. Yeah, he's like, yeah, no, he shouldn't be wearing that. Anyway, all right, what I learned, speaking of basketball, there is occasionally retirements in professional sports that make you go, man, that sucks. Today there was one in the NBA. Jeremy Lamb, the former national champion of Connecticut, who played 573 NBA games, is retiring from basketball. He announced today on Instagram. Played with the Hornets, Thunder, Pacers, the Kings. Bro, I used to cook people with Jeremy Lamb in NBA 2K. I think everybody has a random player, whether it's Madden or FIFA or MLB The Show or whatever, right? Any sports video games. We kind of all have that one random player we could just get the best out of. Jeremy Lamb was my guy. Put him in at shooting guard, I'd drop 50 on suckers. Jeremy Lamb was my dude. Hunter, I hear your mic click on as soon as I said that. You had a guy. Who's your guy?
Oh, I mean, it was Gerald Green.
Yep.
Dude was insane. Corner threes, and he could drive baseline and dunk over everybody. It was great. And right now, Graham Mertz on College Football 25.
Okay. That's the
Dude
show. That's
cooks.
the show. That's the show. Graham Mertz. You do run that Twitter account. Graham Mertz is good.
I
All right. Thanks to Joshy. Thanks to Tiny Hands. This is a fun show today, man. Good Packers discussion. Couple of mean tweets. That was a good one. If you missed any of the show, you can find it ESPN Madison, ESPN Milwaukee on YouTube, or available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's free to subscribe, baby. Just click the button. We're back with you Friday beginning at 12:30. Right here in the same place you're watching us or listening to us right now. Looking forward to more conversation ahead of the first preseason game for the Packers as they take on the Cleveland Browns Saturday afternoon. We'll talk to you Friday at 12:30 Central. This has been Mr. Irrelevant, presented by Door County Distillery. I'm Alex Strouf. Peace.